In this video, I'm going to share with you the exact planning system that over 100 6- and 7-figure business owners have used to hit their quarterly targets like clockwork. So whether your goal is to surpass a new revenue record, bring a project to the finish line, or simply prepare for a guilt-free vacation without risking your business crumbling apart, this system will help you do just that. So without further ado, let's dive in. First off, let's start by giving you an overview of our quarterly battle plan system. And the reason why this system is put together in the first place is because there are so many entrepreneurs out there who are approaching every single month or every single quarter in reactive mode. They are already catching up with tasks or projects that they're falling behind on, and their focus is simply scattered between so many tactics and shiny objects that they have no intention towards what exactly is the priority. So we want to fix that by doing a mini reset and start with an end goal in mind. In other words, we want to first off define the core outcomes, and then from the outcome, reverse engineer our key metrics, and then define the movers that it comes into alignment with the simplest and most effective pathway towards our goals. So with it being said, let's go ahead and dive deep on how we can put together each layer of the quarterly battle plan system so that we can actually clarify exactly what needs to be done and what we should not actually focus on in order for us to hit our goals in the most efficient and effective manner possible. First off, let's define outcomes. And what we want to do here is to approach goal and outcome clarification in a more holistic and comprehensive manner. So in other words, rather than just copying some other guru's definition of success and end up climbing up the wrong mountain, we want to actually start by clarifying our own goals and outcomes according to our own definition of success. So to put this into context, let's say you see somebody else aiming for 10,000 per month, or you see a guru saying that you should aim for 100,000 per month. That is their definition of success, which may or may not align with your values and your definition of success. So what we want to do here is to keep things simple by clarifying the top 3 outcomes you want to achieve in business, followed by the top 3 outcomes that you want to achieve in life. And as you define these outcomes, you want to also ask yourself, how would you want to feel as you achieve the outcomes above? And the reason why is because you want to make sure that the achievements of the above outcomes can allow you to express your core values rather than come in conflict with them. So, for example, let's say your core values would be security, peace, and connection. If achieving your business goal will cause you to be buried in anxiety, force you to lock yourself in a room with no social connection, and cause you to simply not have peace at all, then the chances of you actually following through with your goal and committing to your goal will be slim, to say the least. And most importantly, if achieving your goals will cause you to come in conflict with your core values, then you simply set yourself up for self-sabotaging behaviors where even if you surpass your goals, since those goals cause you to not feel the way that you want to feel, you will simply give it all away. So make sure that you can set goals that align with your core values so that as you achieve them, you can also keep them over a long term. And as you align your business goals with your life goals, here is also a quick hack that will also massively increase the chances of you achieving your defined outcomes for a quarter, which is, whenever possible, use the top outcomes for life as rewards to motivate you to hit your business goals. So for example, let's say one of your core outcomes for business is to raise your prices and sell 5 units to your high-ticket service or your high-ticket program. What you want to do here is to, let's say, is to set yourself a reward where when you made that 5th sale, you can treat your wife or spouse or husband to a Michelin restaurant dinner at a nice hotel, for example. Or let's say if you want to hit a 50,000 a month in your business and break your previous revenue record, you want to also pair it up with a reward such as treating you and your family to a guilt-free vacation and checking some bucket list items off your list. So this wraps up part 1. And before I forget, if you want to grab a copy of this quarterly battle plan system and follow along this video, the link is below this video. So let's move on to part 2, which is to define outcomes. And the first question we want to ask ourselves as we approach this part is, in order for your core business goal to be hit, what must be true? And the reason why is because at the end of the day, goals like sales goals, profit goals, or revenue goals, they are lag indicators. And if we do not align them with the requisite lead indicators or action goals, then we'll simply be hustling, grinding, or hoping or manifesting our goals without actually recognizing whether we are actually doing the things that would move the needle forwards, or are we simply running in circles and have no idea how is progress being measured. So as the famous economist Carl Pearson once said, when performance is tracked, performance improves. And when performance is tracked and reported back, the rates of improvements accelerates. So the first thing that we need to do here as we define our metrics is to define our North Star metric, which is the key number that we're optimizing for. So for me, since I'm not in this business of scaling a huge company with single digit profit margins and work 100 hours per week, I'm here for freedom, profit, and abundance and impact. What I want to do here is to use output per time as my North Star metric. And if you also are in for freedom, profit, and impact rather than just bro scaling your way to a huge business and work 100-hour work weeks, what you can do is to define your North Star metric by using this output per time calculator. So here's how output per time is being calculated. You want to take your monthly revenue target, let's say 100,000, and also factor in your overhead expenses. So let's say if you are generating 100,000 in revenue and you have 30,000 in monthly overhead expenses, then you will have a profit margin of 70%. And let's say you want to work 30 hours per week on average to generate this amount of profit. Then this output per time calculator will allow you to define your North Star metric to have an output per time of $543 per hour. In other words, this is the amount of profit, not revenue, that you'll be generating every single hour you spend in or on your business. And the reason why this is so important, in my opinion, is that you never ever want to optimize for vanity metrics. And to me, revenue is a vanity metric because you can earn 100,000 per month or more, but if your expenses are also at 100,000 per month or you have single digit profit margins, then it doesn't really matter how much you earn because you can't keep any of them. Similar to work hours. Work hours is a vanity metric. Nobody is going to come and give you a price just because you hustled 12-hour days or 100-hour work week. You want to make sure that rather than optimizing for maximum work hours, you want to optimize for maximum return on time, which is why we use this calculator to set our North Star metric. So now that we've gone through the North Star metric, let's go through and define the key metrics and break them down into two groups. Number one, qualitative metrics, and number two, quantitative metrics. And the reason why these two metrics are important is because quantitative metrics are hard numbers that are accumulative, such as sales, leads, and follower growth. Whereas qualitative metrics will allow you to measure the efficacy of your actions. So for example, let's say I want to book 100 sales calls for this month. It would not matter how many calls you book if you only close like 5% of those calls. And that's why rather than just hustling harder and playing the numbers game and just focus on increasing volume, we also want to put constraints in place to make sure that we are approaching our quantitative metrics in the most effective manner possible with a strategy that actually allows us to get a favorable return on investment, whether it be time, energy, bandwidth, money, or other resources. So as you define these metrics, you want to define these metrics according to your business model. In other words, however you turn strangers into paying clients, that process can be used to define your acquisition metrics. And whatever process you use to turn your clients into advocates or lifetime customers, you want to have that process define your fulfillment metrics. So let me give an example. Let's say this is my sales process, okay? I run meta lead ads and organic traffic to generate leads and gain followers for my business. And from there, I will nurture my leads and my content and my followers with content and emails with some call to actions in between. And once a lead or a follower responds to my call to action, I will reach out to them and then I will start a DM conversation with them or book them straight to a call in which we will see whether we're a good fit, and if so, make them an offer and close them. So regardless of what business model that you're in and what stage of growth that you're in with your business, it is essential for you to understand what is the step-by-step process that you use to bring your clients from strangers into paying customers and paying customers into lifetime advocates. And the reason why is because if you do not know what is your process, then there's no way that you can optimize that process nor delegate it to a virtual assistant or other team members or contractors. So if you ever need help clarifying your acquisition or fulfillment process, then you can simply reference my video where I talk about how to build a core operating system and have your business run itself. And that video, I will simply leave that in the description below. So with that out of the way, let's break down these metrics. First off, in order for me to generate 50,000, then I will have to make 10 deals at an average deal value of 5,000. And let's say I have a close rate of 40%, then I will have to conduct 25 sales calls to get 10 closes. And if I have a show rate of 90%, then I will have to aim to book 28 sales calls in order to conduct 25 of them. And let's assume that all calls got set to my calendar through conversations. In this case, I will have to start 280 conversations with warm and hot leads to get 28 calls being booked onto my calendar. And let's say every single conversation is started from outreaches that stems from call to action content or call to action emails, then I will need to generate 840 call to action responses in order to generate 280 conversations. So if this is my main source of conversations and calls, then I would definitely want to grow my following through organic content and aim for a certain amount of follower growth, and also supplement my organic content with paid ads, where I'm going to spend $5,000 in ads at a cost per lead of $10 per lead and generate as a result 500 sets of contacts, including emails and phone numbers. So this is my acquisition metric example, and I will highly recommend you to look at what is your acquisition metric based off of what is your acquisition or sales journey. All right, so let's move on to part 3. We're flying through this. Now that we know exactly what are our outcomes and know exactly what metrics must be hit in order for our outcomes to be achieved, then we have to clarify our plan of execution. So the questions we've got to ask ourselves as we approach part 3 is that in order for me to hit my metrics and achieve my core goals for the quarter, what must I do more of? What must I do less of? And what projects must I implement? And the reason why we want to begin with the question, what must I do more of, is because you will always create a higher yield by focusing on what is currently working in your business. So for example, let's say you have an ad campaign and a funnel that's already giving you a good cost per acquisition or hitting or giving you a ROAS. Then simply optimize that funnel and scale it up rather than trying to mess with other marketing tactics or other campaigns. And let's say you have an offer that is already converting and getting you sales. Then don't go ahead and launch different satellite offers or different low ticket offers that would take you away from scaling up the offer that is already getting market validation. And the reason why is because there's no better way to guarantee confusion and overwhelm than to start so many things that may or may not work in your business and end up in a place where you have no idea what is or is not working in your business anymore. So as you go ahead and define the processes that are already working in your business and put together a plan to scale them up whilst optimizing their effectiveness, we want to then eliminate, automate, or delegate any trivial or low value projects that no longer give us a favorable return on time. So as we do that, not only can we create more time, space, and resources to double down on what is working, we can also reallocate a part of those resources into projects that will stand a chance of 10xing our business. So diving deep on this point, at the end of the day, there are a million tactics, strategies, or shiny objects that we can do to grow our business. But if we do all of them, then we will end up achieving nothing but cause us to be overwhelmed and broke. So what you want to do instead is to choose your projects from a problem-based thinking standpoint. In other words, if you're going to ask yourself, what are the main problems that, when solved, will make the biggest impact to your business? Because what you want to do here is not just start something in your business just because it worked for somebody else. You want to examine your business and look at what is the main bottleneck or the main problem that, when solved or alleviated, will absolutely propel your business to its next level. So if you have more ideas than time and resources to execute your projects, then list out all the ideas that you have and then just pick the top 3 that you think will stand the highest chance of, number 1, working, and number 2, giving you a payoff. So now that we have identified what we need to do more of, do less of, and start as projects, we want to then anchor the importance of each project with the 4th and final part of the quarterly battle plan system. So what we want to do here is to run each project through the impact audit by answering the following questions. Number 1, how will this project contribute to the long-term vision of your business? Number 2, in what ways will this project accelerate you toward your quarterly targets? Number 3, what's at risk if you don't take action? And number 4, what must be true in order for this project to be deemed a success? So let's break down each and every single one of these questions and why it is essential for us to answer them before committing resources into a project. First off, if whenever we're doing something new in our business, whether it be launching a new offer, creating a new sales script, launching a new funnel, or even overhauling a part of our team, we've got to understand that whenever we are doing something new in our business, we are running an experiment. And experiments take up a lot of resources. So rather than putting in all these resources just for a short-term win that doesn't really align with your vision, we want to make sure that we can choose projects that contribute to not just short-term wins, but also the long-term growth of our business. Secondly, if a project is not actually in alignment with our immediate quarterly targets, we do not want to focus on that project because that project is not a priority. That project might be something that we can focus on in our next season of growth instead of our current season. Hence this question on in what ways will this project accelerate you towards your current quarterly targets. Again, I get it. As entrepreneurs, we have this entrepreneur ADD mindset or this visionary mind where we have ideas coming across our brains all the time. But if we pursue every single idea and every single project, then none of them will actually be done. So we want to make sure that these projects are timely and are aligned with the immediate prioritized objectives of our business for this quarter. Number 3, why do we need to ask ourselves this one question of what's at risk if we don't take action? And the reason why is because before a project is being brought through the finish line, it will remain as a liability. So with it being said, in order for us to ensure follow through, we want to make sure that we can create both external and internal accountability and have both rewards and consequences well defined for each project. Last but not least, we must be specific and quantify what the success look like, because there is a difference between, let's say, creating a webinar funnel just for the sake of creating a webinar funnel versus creating a webinar funnel that will give us a 5 to 10x ROAS. And there's a difference between, let's say, just launching an offer versus launching an offer and filling that offer up with its first 10 sales. So we don't ever want to just optimize for actions and effort. Otherwise, we will create action and effort rather than results. So we want to optimize for the result. We want to make sure that every single project has a finish line that is as specific and quantifiable as possible so that should a project require reiteration and optimization, we actually know exactly what is the benchmark we want to hit in order for this project to be deemed a success. So this wraps up the 4 parts of the quarterly battle plan system. And if you have any questions, simply drop it in the comments below, and I promise I'll answer every one of them. And if you like this video, hit a like. Otherwise, that's all I have. Go win.